we're going to talk about this book today. Are you excited? You don't care? You're tired? Ace said that he wanted us to hang out with him in this room today because his favorite blanket is in here. And I said, that's fine, but you have to pay attention. He is already neglecting his side of this bargain, but that's fine because... But that's fine. We are going to be talking about one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year, and that is Flashlight by Susan Choi. I'm not going to hold it up like this the entire time. I already talked about Flashlight in my August reading wrap-up video. It was first up on the roster in that video because it was the favorite that I read last month. So if you want a shorter, though still arguably a little bit long kind of review of this book, then go to the video. I'll put it somewhere up here. This is going to be a more in-depth discussion of the book because now that I've had a few more days to really sit with it and let it percolate and digest, I just feel like it deserves its own video. This is the first kind of video like this that I'm doing of a standalone review, so if you like it, let me know. And also, I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, this will be technically spoiler-free, but because I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper, if you're the kind of person that likes to go in completely blind, then maybe skip this one or at least consider yourself warned. Let's talk about this book because I really, really just loved it. And now that I've read a few more of the Booker long-listed titles, I'm loving it even more than when I first finished it. We begin immediately in the story's central mystery with 10-year-old Louisa who's walking on a beach in Japan with her father, Cirque. We get this sense that this is something that they probably do a lot together. There's nothing particularly special about it. The font is in italics, so you kind of get a signal that there might be something a little off. But more than that, there is a very dreamlike quality immediately here, like time is suspended and maybe reality isn't real. But that quickly shifts as Cirque turns to Louisa, tells her that she should be more thankful to her mother, and then we're told this is the last thing that Louisa remembers her father ever saying to her. We're jolted to a confused Louisa who's waking up in a hospital with no idea of why she's there or even how she got there. All we know is that she was found on that beach that she was walking with her father. She was barely alive when she was discovered, and Cirque has vanished. From that moment, the novel unfolds across decades and across continents through the eyes of Louisa, her mother Anne, and through Cirque himself, who becomes this kind of like mythic figure. He's absent, but he's also hauntingly present throughout this book. What happened on the beach itself becomes the central fracture that the novel keeps circling around, refracting through memory, through the family's history, and through the political upheaval that's giving the novel its context. I neglected to mention this at the beginning, but as Cirque and Louisa are walking together in the opening scene, there's a very overt reference to the fact that Cirque is carrying a flashlight, and then in the course of his disappearance, the flashlight goes missing. He's just moving, he's not leaving us. Like her titular flashlight, Choi is not going to be exposing everything all at once. She's going to be revealing things over time, in glimpses, in fragments, in the fissures of the communication between these characters that she is rendering so wonderfully, in my opinion. In terms of the plot itself, without giving anything too specific, we are in post-war Japan, we're in the Midwest in the 70s time frame, and we're also in contemporary America. This travel is happening across the generations, showing how the family fractures ripple outward. There isn't one tidy arc or a single big revelation. Instead, the novel is about the way these characters are orbiting each other. They're drifting apart, they're coming back together, they're always carrying the weight of that early rupture. And we see that there are different ruptures throughout their lives. It's just that Cirque's disappearance is the one that they all share together. One of the things I found so compelling is how Choi uses absence both as a plot device and as a theme. Cirque disappears early. I mean, it's on the second page basically, but his absence generates the entire story. Through Cirque, mostly Choi is exploring one of her main themes, which is of a fractured identity. He is ethnically Korean, but he was born and raised in Japan. And Sirk isn't even the only name that he has. He has several, and each one is tied to a different location and to a different cultural identity. With each one, he's had to adopt a different version of himself and inhabit that particular version. He really embodies the dislocation and the diaspora of history, and through him, we're really channeling that question of what happens when it feels like you never really belong to any one place or to any one person, even if that person is yourself. Undoubtedly, these really fundamental questions are exacerbated for Sirk when he meets his American wife, Anne. When she is presented, we get this sense that she's kind of unremarkable. I mean, she's from the Midwest. She's from what we would probably, and I say we as an American, would consider a very sort of traditional background. Of course, that's not exactly the case. Once we dig a little bit below the surface, we realize that Anne is a complicated person in her own right. She, we learn very quickly, had kind of we'll call it a colorful past, and from that past, she has a son from a previous relationship whose name is Tobias, and he re-enters her life in the early parts of this book. Finally, we have our problematic Louisa, who we follow from that point all the way into her adulthood. She is Sirk and Anne's precocious but very difficult daughter, and I think it's in Louisa where maybe some of the criticisms that I read about this book become the most apparent, at least for me. One of the criticisms is that the characters themselves are unlikable / hateable. And I don't disagree, although I disagree to the extent that that is suggested as something that should prevent you from reading this book. They are unlikable. You do hate them at times, I'm sure, but they're also very realistic. And you can probably find unredeeming qualities in all of them. For me, the hardest one was Louisa. She's smart, she's judgmental, she's self-defensive. Overall, she was difficult to spend time with, but that's also what made her feel so real to me. She could be particularly cruel, especially to Anne, and that was hard to read at times, but, Anne wasn't an angel herself. You could easily dismiss Anne and Louisa for their unlikability, and frankly, that goes for all of the characters, but if you're open to it, consider that this is why Choi decided to use the third person POV narration. From that opening scene, we then shift, and each chapter is divided where we're spending time in Anne's POV, and then it shifts to Louisa. We spend a little bit of time with Tobias, so on and so forth. And we're going back and forth like this, very purposeful, it seems like. Through that third party remove, we are given this window into the characters' interior lives, and we can see their realizations, their insecurities, their attempts at self-justification for their bad behavior sometimes, but the distance there allows us to, on the one hand, sympathize and maybe understand where they're coming from, but it doesn't go so far as to excusing their poor behavior. Here's where I think that Choi is doing a really excellent job of the show don't tell aspect. She is allowing her characters all of the space to breathe. None of these characters are transforming dramatically. Their relationships don't change overnight. They don't change overnight. But they do grow even amid the tragedies and amid the challenges, and we see that occur over the many pages of this book. For some people, that process was too slow, and I think when a book is this long, it's almost 450 pages, it is inevitably going to invite some scrutiny for its length and whether it could have been edited down. Personally, and if you've watched some of my previous videos, you know that that's not going to be a deal breaker for me. I like to be able to take my time, and honestly, I would have been happy to do that, but this book in particular, and I think Choi in particular, was sensitive to the fact that this was going to be a longer book, and so she infused the plot with a little twist. Well, it's not a little twist, it's kind of a big twist that I will not spoil or reveal, but for me, that really helped to accelerate the book. And I think the way I described it in my last video was it was enjoyable and then it became unputdownable. It kind of has a little bit of a thriller aspect to it. And so even though I didn't need it, I really enjoyed it. And for the people who I think might find this otherwise kind of a slow book and aren't the kind to really, and not that there's anything wrong with this, but, you know, don't really want to spend time in a deep character study or something, that would help pick up the pace a little bit. Although it was the hook that got me into it, Flashlight is not about the central mystery. It's about how absence can shape identity, how relationships can be tender and they can be impossible, and how memory itself is a very slippery thing because it is really only illuminated in fragments. It's a challenging book, it's very layered, and it's not always a comfortable read, but it really is one of the most fun books, honestly, that I've read while still maintaining kind of like a sense of gravitas to it. I will definitely be carrying it with me like a flashlight for a long time. If you pick up this book, did you like it? Did you think it was too long? Did you think the characters were too insufferable? Did you actually like any of them? What did you think about the central mystery? I really think that this is a great book for a discussion like that, and that's part of its brilliance. I can see that it would be a great book club book. There would be a lot of material to really mine and debate over, but I don't have a book club, so please tell me in the comments if you liked it, if you are planning to pick it up, and if you think that it has any shot of winning the Booker Prize. I'm not sure about that. I have a little bit of a sense that it might be maybe too commercial or something for what I am guessing the judges are looking for, but I think it's an achievement to be nominated, honestly. And I did actually purchase the book that is mentioned on here too, Trust Exercise, which won the National Book Award. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more from me, subscribe. If you like this style of video, let me know and I will do more of them. They are a little bit easier to put together, honestly. So if you want to see Ace in more of my videos, I will talk to him about making calm appearances like this. This is after a 4-mile run, so it's not his standard default setting. I had to really wear out his battery, so to speak, for him to be allowed to participate at all. Bye.